49ers lose in Los Angeles, 27-24. Week 3 disaster. A terrible game. A hair-pulling game. It was one of the worst losses I've seen a good 49ers team have, or at least we're told is supposed to be a good 49ers team. A quick game summary, the 49ers scored 14 right out of the gate and looked very impressive. They got to a fast start. They shut out the Rams in the first quarter. Then the Rams scored 7. In the second quarter, the 49ers scored nothing. Third quarter, it was 7-7. In early fourth quarter, the 49ers had a 24-14 lead. And does that remind you, 49er fans, of anything in that building? The NFC Championship game loss in 2021. You're up early fourth quarter by 10 points, and they managed to lose the game. What a surprise. Not a surprise with a Kyle Shanahan team. 49ers lose 27-24. That is one of the most frustrating losses I can remember. Regular season losses. I'll have a little perspective about it. It's early in the season, yes. It's not the end of the season. I expect the 49ers to play better. I expect the 49ers to bounce back. I expect the 49ers to be healthier. I expect the 49ers to be better coached going forward. A few positives about this one. Well, Brock Purdy, he did great under the circumstances. Let's look at his line. 22 of 30. 292 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. I don't remember throwing a single interceptable pass in this. Again, no Debo, no Kittle, no McCaffrey, and the question coming into this was, could he get it done with a weaker supporting cast? He had a 137.1 rating out there. Brock Purdy, thumbs up, great game. This is not on you. There were 6 drops by 49er receivers. 6 drops. Out of his 8 incompletions, 6 of them were drops. Jordan Mason, very solid. He had 19 carries, 77 yards. Not a great game, as the Rams in the second half are really committed to stopping the run. He could have used a few more carries. And then Jauan Jennings, 11 receptions, a career high, 175 yards receiving, a career high, 3 touchdowns. Did we need to give Brandon Aiyuk that long extension? We just should have given it to Jauan Jennings, shouldn't we? We should have given it to Jauan Jennings, not Brandon Aiyuk. I know. I'm only being half serious here. But Jauan Jennings, 175 yards receiving. Brandon Aiyuk, 5 receptions, 48 yards. When we really needed him to step up, he didn't. It was Jennings. And those are really the only 3 players I can say good things about in this game. Purdy, Mason, and Jennings. You look at the box on the other side, Matthew Stafford got off to a slow start, but he was sharp. He didn't turn the football over. 16 of 26, 221 yards. Kyren Williams had 24 carries, 89 yards, 3.7 yards, but the Rams were committed to the run. It seemed like when they need to pick up first downs and yards on the ground, though, they were able to do that when they needed to. And the 49ers really needed to stop the Rams' running game. They couldn't. And then Tutu Atwell was the problem. I mean, it got to the point where could the 49ers just double team him? Could they play a little physical with Tutu Atwell? Could they give a little more safety help towards his side? 4 receptions, 93 yards, a 50-yard. I mean, it just fell apart at the end. The pass to set up the game-tying touchdown, that just can't happen. That can't happen. I think offensive play calling was poor at times. especially in the fourth quarter. I don't think Kyle Shanahan did a lot to help out Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy made so many plays with his legs that Jimmy Garoppolo could never make. Matthew Stafford certainly couldn't make those plays. He did everything he could to help himself out. His head coach did not help him out very much. I think Kyle Juszczyk, let me add this, Kyle Juszczyk had a pretty good game overall. But should the fullback in 2024 be a big factor in the game? No. But we're talking about players that should matter, who should jump out and lead the team. Really, all I can say is Purdy, Mason, and Jennings did their jobs today. There's no doubt that Kittle's play was missed, not only as a receiving tight end, but certainly blocking. That made it difficult, or more difficult, for Jordan Mason out there. Ronnie Bell, some of those drops. I mean, especially late in that fourth quarter where Purdy threw a perfect pass to him, and he was just open. He flat out dropped it. I believe he had 2 drops in the game just to get him off the field, get him off the team. He does nothing for you. He contributes nothing in special teams, nothing as a receiver. Goodbye for Bell. Grenda was okay as a backup running back. The whole issue was there really wasn't anyone that Purdy could trust as a receiver except for Jauan Jennings. Ayuk's holdout, no doubt, has hurt him. It's not that he's useless out there, but this is not the Brandon Ayuk of last year or really any year that we've seen. It's been a poor start to the season. Defense. I want to get back to offense, but defense. Because all 3 phases of the game were a failure for the 49ers. But defense, Nick Sorensen's defense was so vanilla, so predictable, so boring, so uncreative out there. I mean, basically this was it. Nick Bosa didn't have a great game, but Nick Bosa was getting chipped throughout the game, and no one else stepped up except for Javon Hargrave getting 1 sack. Otherwise, he was a total non-factor. Leonard Floyd, non-factor. A quiet game for Fred Warner, but you think I'm going to get on Fred Warner? No. The problem I have is with, and this was a bad game for the secondary too, but someone else that needs to go is Devondre Campbell. I wasn't a fan of him with Green Bay. I thought he was a weak link on their defense at linebacker when the 49ers played them in the past. You could attack him. Even more so now. What is he doing covering anyone out there? His game, Mark Sanchez was right about this, and man, it was a rough broadcast between Adam Amin and Mark Sanchez today. I knew that heading in. But he was right about this, that his game is supposed to be run defense. He should not be playing back out in coverage, and of course, he gets burned in coverage, and then on what ended up really setting up the field goal to win the game, there are 3 penalties on the same play on the 49ers defense. I mean, what's become very popular throughout the whole league now, and I wish I could see it a little bit on the 49ers defensive coaching and strategy and plays, is putting linebackers on the line, dropping players back into coverage, and making it a little more difficult for the quarterback to pick out, who's rushing and coming after him and who is dropping back in the coverage. 49ers don't really do that. And one of the few times they brought Fred Warner in blitz, they got burned. The secondary had a terrible game. But even though the defense, there's just too much pitch and catch with Matthew Stafford. And I said this in the preview. They allowed him to get comfortable. Yeah, there were some quick stops in the first quarter, really. And it was a slow start from the Rams. But they never really made Stafford uncomfortable today. And another thing, I have to mention this too, I know I'm just so frustrating, is it was practically a home game for the 49ers. Forget about neutral field. That was a home game that they lost to the Rams in Los Angeles. It was a sea of red in the crowd. So too easy for Matthew Stafford. When they need to stop the run, they couldn't. When he's comfortable, he's like any great quarterback. If he can just sit back there and sling the ball, it's going to be a long day. And it was. And they really couldn't stop the Rams' offense after the beginning of the game, after the first quarter. They couldn't stop them. Second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. Too easy. And it was very similar to the game last week against the Vikings. I mean, look, okay, Sam Darnold is playing well so far. I expect him to come back down to earth a bit. It was easy for Sam Darnold. It was easy for Matthew Stafford. And what you had in week one was a rusty Aaron Rodgers at home. That's what was week one. And yeah, the defense generally played better and were sharper in week one. And special teams. Oh man, I'm not going to get on Moody. It was a 55-yard kick is not automatic. And Purdy was doing everything he could. And I would have liked to have seen something else to set up and potentially closer. Even though just a few yards would have made a difference. But the D-line for the Rams was better than the 49ers D-line. They brought more pressure. And when I look at the 49ers defense, everyone was out there. Minus Dre Greenlaw. And again, boy, they do miss Dre Greenlaw. If you didn't think he was valuable, yes, he's valuable. Not just as an intimidator, not just as a hard hitter, but he's a presence out there. He can play coverage. He's mean against the run. Oh, Campbell is such a drop-off. And if you know what I mean as 49er fans, that I can't tolerate poor linebacker play after watching Willis and Bowman together and then having Warner and Greenlaw. We have been so spoiled. Getting back, it's just this line that's supposed to be great and this defense is supposed to be very good. Where was the pressure when Bosa was getting doubled throughout the game? Hargrave, Floyd. And if they're not getting there, and I know you don't necessarily want to blitz Stafford, but could you bring one more occasionally? Didn't see much of that. I give the defense an F. An F. Special teams, I'm not going to get on Moody, but surrendering the 38-yard kick return right at the end of the game to Xavier Smith, deep in Rams territory, was inexcusable. Can you remember a 49ers punt returner late in the game doing something like that? No. All you ever do is hope that they're not going to cough it up. But there is nothing special about the 49ers special teams. That just can't happen. It was just a failure on all accounts. Offense, defense, special teams right at the end of the game. But when I'm looking at offense, I'm pointing the finger at Kyle Shanahan, not Brock Purdy. This game is not on Brock Purdy. It was Kyle Shanahan. I think he abandoned the run too much. I think that the play calling could have been better. And the Rams were really going out there to win the game. And the 49ers, once again, were a little too conservative. Coughing up the 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. I said, as the 49ers were entering the season, that the offense has to carry this team. It can't be the defense. The defense has got to play better than today. There's no question about that. But the offense has to carry it. And Sean McVay put his quarterback in a position to win. And he got very creative on offense without his top two receivers and his tight end. and missing offensive linemen. He far outcoached Kyle Shanahan. We're just looking at offense versus offense. He outcoached Kyle Shanahan. He outcoached Sorensen. He was the better coach. And, the thing about Kyle Shanahan is we still have to wonder about him. As you can't blame Brock Purdy, are you going to blame everything on the defense in this game? You tolerate poor special teams. And how many defensive coordinators have we been through? Just in the Kyle Shanahan era. Can you always blame the defensive coordinator in an offensive era? In an offensive game? Right? Whether it's Saleh, D'Amico Ryans, or Steve Wilks, Nick Sorensen. You're the head coach. This is an offensive league, and you're supposed to be one of the very best head coaches in the NFL. Kyle Shanahan doesn't take responsibility. And the blame game. Who is this loss on? It is on the defense. It is on special teams, and Damon Bruce has been calling for it, and I was listening to some of his post-game, and he was saying they need a new special teams coach right away. Fire the special teams coach. I totally agree. After what has happened in the last 2 weeks, enough is enough already. You're going to let special teams derail the season? Lack of defensive adjustments 2 weeks in a row. And can I say, what has always been a problem with me with Kyle Shanahan is he lets the defense dictate too much what his offense is going to do. I mean, who were the big playmakers? Yes, you had guys out on your offense, of course. But who were the big-time superstars on the Rams defense today? Aaron Donald wasn't there. Right, number 99 was not there. Well, it's going to be a full week of 49ers reviews, rants, complaining, and it should be. It was one of the worst losses in the regular season with all those injuries, playing really on a home field in many ways in Los Angeles, having the healthier team and a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, and you managed to lose. I only have one good news story for you 49er fans. It's this, that the Cowboys lost at home against the Ravens. They were attempting to come back, and they fell to 1-2.